Hello, you're watching All 24 News live from Algiers. Coming up next in our World News program. China launched its third aircraft carrier for the first such ship to be both designed and built entirely within the country. The leaders of France, Germany and Italy headed to Kiev in an apparent show of collective European support for Ukraine. Three Palestinians were killed and 10 others were injured in an attack from the Zionist entity in the Jenin region. Also coming up in our program, the House Committee investigating the 2021 insurrection of the U.S. Capitol held third hearing on Thursday. Hello again, I'm Karim Fazakari, and those were today's top stories. First in our news, China on Friday launched its third aircraft carrier, the first such ship to be both designed and built entirely within the country. The new generation aircraft carrier was named Fujian, equipped with the latest weaponry and aircraft launch technology. The ship's capabilities are thought to rival those of Western carriers. This comes as China seeks to extend the range of its power and navy. To a different matter now, the leaders of France, Germany and Italy headed to Kiev in an apparent show of collective European support for Ukraine as it tries to resist Russia's military operation. Usama Ayadi with more.
The leaders of France, Germany and Italy visited Kyiv on Thursday as a show of European support for Ukraine as Russia presses what they called its brutal offensive in the east of the country. Ukraine's Minister of Regional Development on Thursday gave the leaders a tour in Irpin.
Innocent civilians have been affected, houses have been destroyed, an entire city has been destroyed. Even thought there was no military infrastructure. That says a lot about brutality of the Russian war of aggression, which is bent on destruction. We have to keep that in mind in all that we decide.
French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi arrived in the Ukrainian capital by train from Poland as form of further solidarity with the Ukrainian people and government. Leaders also assured that the visit also includes financial and humanitarian help, as the EU will continue to provide weaponry for the war-torn country. Germany's Chancellor also expressed his support for Ukraine and Moldova's ambition to join the European Union after talks with President Volodymyr Zelensky.
In recent days, the Ukrainian army recognizes this, with the French scissors in particular, which are very useful. Then, through financial support, we began as Europeans to provide funding to rebuild these sites. that were affected, devastated for some, as you have seen, and we began to cooperate to provide support.
It's a question of credibility that we make good on promises to the states of the Western Balkans. Now on concretely, there are clear criteria for accession to the EU that must be by all candidates. The rule agreed on the EU apply, especially with regards to democracy and rule of law.
For his part, Ukrainian president told European leaders that only a unified effort could force Russia to stop the war after Macron's suggestion to visit Moscow for mediating with the Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I'm not sure that today certain leaders in the world can force Russia to stop the war alone. Only collectively and only together, only united, will it be a powerful force that will stop the Russian Federation.
It is the first time that the leaders of the three European Union countries have visited Kyiv since Russia's February 24th military operation started, at a time when Kyiv is pushing to be given official candidate status to join the EU.
Still with the Russia-Ukraine war, at least 4 people were killed and 7 injured as Russia fighter jets attacked the city of Lysychansk in eastern Ukraine on Thursday. Rockets hit the cultural center in the city where more than 40 had sought shelter, according to officials. The battle for control of Lysychansk and neighboring Severodonetsk has become the focus of Russia's offensive in recent weeks. The cities lie in Ukraine's eastern Donbas area, the country's industrial heartland, full of factories, coal mines.
In the Severodonetsk direction, Russian occupiers continue firing against the units of our troops from all Weber fire weapons in the areas of the settlements Belorivka, Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. The enemy does not attempt to establish full control over the city of Severodonetsk. It continues the assault, the fighting continues.
The European Commission will recommend candidate status to Ukraine and Moldova. Several thought the nod will come with conditions. The Commission is expected on June 17th to hand down its assessment of membership applications submitted by Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, announced during a press conference that the European Commission recommends granting Ukraine the status of candidate to the European Union.
We must not is the victim of an aggression. But our position for the European Council is very clear from Austria. We say yes, we agree to give Moldova and Ukraine the candidate status, but we say, but don't forget...
Let me start with Ukraine. The Commission recommends to the Council, first, that Ukraine is given European perspective, and second, that Ukraine is given candidate status. This is, of course, on the understanding that the country will carry out a number of further important reforms.
The head of the Russian energy giant said on Wednesday Moscow will play by its own rules after cutting daily gas supplies to Germany. The decision of reducing the capacity of gas supplies via Nord Stream 1 pipeline to 67 million cubic meters per day and half the current rate comes into effect on Thursday. The halt was due to the technical condition of the engine.
One well-known Chinese emperor once said, if your rival, let's say opponent, is making a mistake, don't stop him from making it. Well, we warned the European Union that giving up long-term contracts with Gazprom is very risky. As for all, the decisions that were proclaimed and fulfilled, you get what you deserve. You want it, you got it.
To the Middle East now. Officials stated that 3 Palestinians were killed and 10 others were injured in an attack from the Zionist entity in the Jenin region. The 3 men, all in their 20s, were slain when Zionist forces, who have increased attacks in this region in recent months, opened fire on the car in which they were traveling, according to the official Palestinian news agency. To India now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government announced this week an overhaul of recruitment for India's 1.38 million armed forces, looking to bring down the average age of personnel and reduce pension expenditure. Protesters shouted slogans and performed push-ups to emphasize their fitness for the service. In India still, around 10,000 Muslims demonstrated on Thursday in the second protest in a week over remarks about Islam's prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, by an Indian official that sparked anger across the Islamic world. Authorities in India have meanwhile ordered heightened security in several regions for coming Friday prayers. The British government has ordered the extradition of Wikileaks founder Julian Assange to the United States to face spying charges. The Department of the Priti Patel announced that she signed the extradition order on Friday, following a British court ruling in April that Assange could be sent to the US over Wikileaks' publication of a huge trove of classified documents more than a decade ago. 2 people were killed and another person was injured in a shooting at a small group church meeting in the state of Alabama in the United States. Police said a suspect who was not identified publicly is now in custody, and the surviving victim is being treated at a hospital for undisclosed injuries. The shooting comes amid a significant surge in gun violence in the U.S., including 2 gun massacres in May. One at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead, and a racist attack at a Buffalo supermarket in which a white gunman killed 10 black people.
From what we've gathered from the circumstances of this evening, a lone suspect entered a small group church meeting and began shooting. 3 people were shot. 2 people are deceased. 1 person is being treated for an unknown injury at a local hospital. I would like to reiterate that the suspect is in custody. I would like to reiterate that there is no threat to the community at this time.
Still in the United States, the House committee investigating the 2021 insurrection of the U.S. Capitol held third hearing Thursday, focusing on Donald Trump's efforts to pressure the Vice President Mike Pence into using his role as the Senate's presiding officer to block congressional certification of Joe Biden's presidential election win. Hossein Burkan.
The Commission of Inquiry into the assault on the Capitol detailed during the third hearing Thursday the numerous pressure exerted by Donald Trump on his Vice President Mike Pence to try to prevent him from certifying the victory of Joe Biden in the presidential election on January 6, 2021. Chairman Benny Thompson opened the hearing citing Pence's own words, being asked to reject the vote.
Donald Trump wanted Mike Pence to do something no other vice president has ever done. The former president wanted Pence to reject the votes and either declare Trump the winner or send the votes back to the states to be counted again. Mike Pence said no. He resisted the pressure. He knew it was illegal. He knew it was wrong.
Vice Chairman Liz Cheney affirmed that Trump's pressure on Pence to not certify the 2020 elections directly contributed to the attack on the Capitol.
Please listen to testimony today about all of the ways that President Trump attempted to pressure Vice President Pence, including Donald Trump's tweet at 2:24 p.m. condemning Vice President Mike Pence when President Trump already knew a violent riot was underway at the Capitol.
In its third hearing this month, the panel shed a light on former Vice President Mike Pence, who stated that he had no right to overturn the election.
We anticipate
that President Trump said I had the right to overturn the election. But President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president.
The panel's year-long investigation is showcasing Trump's final weeks in the office, which witnessed a controversial debate over the results of the presidential election described as rigged by former President Donald Trump and defended by Democrats, demonstrating that Trump's false claims over fraudulent elections left him grasping for alternatives, as courts turned back dozens of lawsuits challenging the vote.
Donald Trump turned the mob on him.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday signed legislation to improve oversight of the ocean shipping, which lawmakers say will help curb inflation and ease export backlogs. The new regulation aims at boosting the investigatory authority of the Federal Maritime Fee, the U.S. company that oversees ocean delivery, and will increase transparency of trade practices. This means enforcement measures will be applied to require the vessels to report back to the FMC complete import and export tonnage every calendar quarter.
And I've said many times, tackling inflation is my #1 priority. Inflation, there's no solace as inflation is higher around the rest of the world and gas prices are higher everywhere else in the world. Doesn't matter. It's much too high here. And this bill is going to help bring down inflation, at least marginally, for farmers and businesses all across America.
To Europe now. Initially driven by post-pandemic supply shortages and soaring energy prices, inflation is spreading across Europe. In the Eurozone, it rose to a record high, 8.1% last month, while in the UK, interest rates have risen further as the Bank of England attempts to stem the pace of soaring prices. Nabil Khazini has more details.
As European inflation reaches levels not seen since the 80s, the drastic rise in energy prices is having an impact on the shopping basket of the Germans. Some of them, like Gabriele, have no other alternative than waiting in line to fill their trolleys from food banks.
Bread costs more than 2 euros. It's too expensive for me, as I'm on my own. I can't buy butter, which at a time used to cost 99 cents, and now it costs more than 2 euros. I can't even buy sausage. Sometimes I come home from the store with tears in my eyes, because there are too many things I can no longer afford to buy.
Here at the food bank in Bernau Bay, near Berlin, customers can pick up a full trolley of food for around 30 euros. A good bargain while the purchasing power of Europeans is being eroded by inflation records.
We have long been asking the government for a law to push supermarkets to give away their unsold goods, as in France. Nothing's changed on the matter yet.
Germany's inflation rate reached 7.9% in May, the highest since Germany reunification. To combat soaring prices, Olaf Scholz announced that he wanted to sit down at a round table to discuss joint measures against high inflation. In the United Kingdom, the situation is not very different. The Bank of England has raised its inflation forecast again and now predicts it will hit 11% this autumn when energy bills rise. Inflation means for the British government that it cannot simply spend more to support people through the cost of living crisis, and that increasing wages sharply would risk fueling further price rises.
When you face inflationary pressure, you can't just spend your way out of it. On the contrary, you have to be careful not to add to inflationary pressure.
European Union's annual inflation rate hit 8.8% in May. Such levels of increase in prices have not been seen in some places since the aftermath of the oil crisis of the 1970s.
Tens of thousands of protesters marched in Buenos Aires on Thursday, demanding better paid and proper jobs to protest the government's deal with the International Monetary Fund. The protests, with blockades of streets and camps on large avenues, have been increasing in recent months in the heat of the abrupt rise in food prices. More than 30% of Sudan's people are currently facing a food crisis because of climate shocks, political turmoil, and rising global food prices. The UN World Food Programme suspended help to at least 1.7 million hungry people in South Sudan, while the country is at its worst time, with experts warning that 1.4 million children will be malnourished in the lean season. The East African countries' populations are facing acute food insecurity, according to a joint report by UN World Food Programme and FAO. To Algeria now. Algiers International Fair started 2 days ago and was inaugurated by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. More than 700 companies representing 20 countries are participating. Let's follow the report.
The 53rd International Fair of Algiers started June 13 at the Exhibition Center of Maritime Pine under the theme For a Strong Partnership. This event, considered as the major economic event for Algerian and international economic operators, will coincide this year with the celebration of the 60 years of independence of Algeria. The fair operates in a supportive environment for partnerships in many fields, with the objectives of creating new business opportunities and encouraging foreign investment in Algeria. The United States is the guest of honor and is participating with 35 companies.
I represent Air Products. Air Products is an American company based in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We are a world leader in industrial gases. We've been operating in Algeria since 1977. We have provided Algeria with process technology, with engineering, and process equipment. For that, we helped Sonatrach in producing LNG since 1977. We also have formed a joint venture with Sonatrach called Helios, where we produce helium. It was the first helium plant in Africa.
We noticed an important number of Turkish, Italian, and Arab companies representing sectors of industry, electronics, construction, energy, and so on.
All in this company is to search for new partners and find new investments to make Algeria a better place, And for the company, it has a social capital of 400 million in dinars. And we are hoping the main objective is now to go to national production for air compressors, maybe at the start of next year.
We are coming from Turkey, and we are a manufacturer of appliances and metal sector as well for nearly 2 decades in Turkey. And we are here for this exhibition in order to seek some opportunities for business. And we already have some business here in Algeria. We have some clients in Algeria, but we need to expand our business and increase some business opportunities in Algeria in terms of production, in terms of assembly lines, and the other opportunities as well.
Foreign education companies are also present at the fair, aiming at transferring knowledge.
Nowadays, we are looking for a strategic partnership with Algeria. I hope we will be having the chance to invest in Algeria with the Algerian parties. Yesterday, I was receiving good news from South Shab party about the new rules for investment.
The International Fair of Algiers, which sets a new stage for promoting Algerian products and developing partnerships, will remain open until the 17th of June.
A nationwide public sector strike in Tunisia poised to paralyze land and air transport and other vital activities on Thursday, with the North African nation already in the midst of a deteriorating economic crisis. Tunisia's powerful General Labour Union announced the walkout, which was expected to include 159 state enterprises on the basis of pressing social and economic demands. The purchasing power of Tunisian citizens has eroded since the beginning of the year, and rising prices, high unemployment, and widespread poverty.
The UGTT was never an obstacle or destructive force against the national economy. An example of this was during the COVID crisis, when a total crisis was averted by public sector employees. Meanwhile, the country has been told that the UGTT is a destructive force against the national economy. The UGTT has always been a supporter of economic development of all Tunisian governments.
France is immersed in a heat wave that started on Thursday and continues from Friday today and Saturday, with temperatures in the central portions of the country exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. According to French weather specialists, a cold air system from the Maghreb region is functioning like a gear, forcing hot air higher towards France and the Iberian Peninsula. Other parts of Europe, such as Italy, Alpine countries, and the south of Germany, will not escape the heat wave. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which evolved into agricultural superpowers that exported 30% of the world's wheat, resulted in skyrocketing grain and fertilizer prices, putting global food security in jeopardy. Sofian Kinturi.
Russia is one of the world's largest cereal powers, but since the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine and the reign of Western sanctions, farmers have been forced to withdraw to the domestic market. In the village of Kotomanovo, 170 kilometers south of Moscow, on the banks of Oka River, black bread is one of the small farms that have multiplied in Russia over the last decade. Evgeny Chivanov, 32 years old, stressed that farmers are turning more towards their domestic market, toward their economy.
I cannot say that we have encountered problems that we could not solve or that worsen our situation. There are no such problems, although we have encountered logistic problems. And yes, it is a problem.
Russia seems to be in strong position in the grain trade. As the world's largest exporter of wheat, Moscow has made blocked Ukrainian grain a key element of negotiations. But the Russian agricultural sector is also at risk. While the season's outlook is positive, the Ministry of Agriculture predicts a 130 million ton crop, including a record of 87 million tons of wheat. Farmers have had a difficult time since the sanctions began. As the wheat harvest began for farmers in southern Ukraine, the logistics to export the precious cereal remain extremely difficult due to the Russian blockade on the Black Sea. At the top of chain, the farmer Vyacheslav Zyapkin, who works 35 kilometers from the port, has still put nothing on boats on Danube. not even a kilogram, because it was offered a purchase price well below operating costs.
We currently have 2,100 tons of wheat in this warehouse. We cannot sell it. I mean, we can, of course, but for the price of 5,000 grivnas per ton. So it's not worth it. Now we will pick up a new crop, as long as there is still room to store it here.
Before the war, Ukraine was the fourth largest exporter of maize, becoming the world's third largest exporter of wheat, and counted for only 50% of the world's trade in sunflower seeds and oil. If the crisis lasts, the UN fears a big rise of famine in the coming months.
Well, we reached the end of our program. This is Karim Fazakari signing off. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.